Yeah, it's kind of easy to do. If mom and dad have a little scratch, have a little money, and you can surf every day, and you can park cars, and you can meet all the chicks, and then bam. Let me tell you how quick time goes by.
Dude.
Your 20s zip by, your 30s zip by, and then you're sitting around broken, sad. Maybe you've been divorced a couple times, and you're going, what happened to my life?
Where did I go wrong?
And that's not where you want to be, man. Like, if you could just make better decisions earlier on, you will set yourself up for such success.
You know you're getting locked up. You know you're a good human. You've just been in bondage to the addiction, and it drives you to do things you don't want to do. There's always going to be a lesson to learn, even if there's no blessing. Now I just want to help and give back, be a part of the solution as opposed to the problem. I'm going to interview professionals. I'm an ex-convict. It's a play on words. Let's have fun with this. This is the Pros and Cons podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Pros and Cons podcast. We are here with no other than Jonathan Wayne Freeman, most notably known for letting you golfers know that you're whammied, and also if you're in Bressie Ranch, blah. And also an awesome human, paramedic, husband, father, surfer, comedian,
dog owner. I brought my dog with me. This is Bolt. I take my dog with me everywhere I go. No, it's not my dog. This lovely lad is going to be joining me today. So you just feel free to speak up if you have anything on your mind.
Yep.
Is that guy treating you okay? I'm kind of getting a vibe. Maybe he wants to come with me. I don't know.
Yep. Well, it'll be that simple. He'll just jump right in.
Oh, there we go. You can come home with me.
So I like to start off. John, what'd you have for breakfast today?
Brother, I do intermittent fasting.
Okay.
So I had a bunch of walnuts because my father-in-law runs a walnut farm up in Northern California. So I get those walnuts for free. Dude, they're not cheap.
Great source of nutrition and protein.
I had a banana and I had 2 cups of black coffee. Let's go, baby.
You got me beat, man. Just coffee right here. Oh, I had a protein shake at work, but I work at a training facility, so brother,
look at us taking care of our bodies, and we used to treat them like a science experiment, just
if
dumping
anybody knows
garbage
my story, I definitely treated my body like a science experiment. Oh, street drugs, how many can these do without taking me out forever? Or maybe so.
There you go. And to be clear, this is the first time I've met you, and I know a little bit about your story, but thank you so much for inviting me. We've been going back and forth on Instagram for a while trying to set this up, so I'm stoked to be here. Thank you for having me. And,
yeah, dude, we're so psyched to have you. I know that
stoked
Zach and I don't know, I think I first messaged you. I'm not going to go look at the messages, but so you guys know, I messaged him on Insta, fan. I think like most of us are. Even if you're a hater, you're still following. You know what I'm saying? But, yeah, I know you're busy and, you got a lot going on right now, so we do appreciate that. So give us a little bio, man. I think we know a lot of your awesome characteristic traits,
sure,
but let us know how Jonathan Wayne Freeman grew up and, how this all.
So, it's funny. We're the, you grew up in Carlsbad. Is that correct?
Yes.
So I grew up in the equivalent in South Orange County. I was born in Mission Viejo in 1979.
Yeah.
My family moved to Aliso Viejo, which was the new hip town in around 92. And then I started surfing when I was 14 at Salt Creek. My dad is a full redneck. He's from Fallbrook and grew up hunting, deer hunting. I grew up bird hunting, all that stuff. And my mom always wanted to live by the beach. She's from Riverside. So you get this mix of me. I'm the only boy. I'm the youngest. It's probably why I seek attention, and I love that. I got 2 older sisters. And in high school, just played football, was a full jock kid, but I am not a team sports guy. And it took me a minute to figure that out. And I think when that happened was when I fell in love with surfing. I was a full poser kid, boogie boarded, looked at the surfers and was like, I want to be one of those. And then the first time I stood up on a board, it was like later football, later coach, done with all of it. And that just set me on.
That's so cool.
I was like single-minded with that. And the other thing I loved, which was not cool in the 90s, musical theater. I loved acting. So I was this weird dude. I played water polo senior year. I became an ocean lifeguard, but really it was surfing and making people laugh. That's what brought me joy. But at the same time, I went down this path. My dad was a cop for 30 years in Costa Mesa. He was on the SWAT team. He was a sniper. My uncles are all big dudes, firefighters, my grandfather was in World War II, so it was always like, that's what a man is. That's what I thought.
Mm-hmm.
And physically, I can do all those things. I was always good at that kind of stuff. So I pursued all those things. I was in the Navy. I got kicked out of the Navy. I was a cop in the city of Anaheim. I quit when I was on the field, what's it called? FTO,
Yeah.
which is like your training period. In the last portion of it, I was like, this is the last thing I want to do for the next 30 years. No way. And then I was like, okay, what's next? I'll be a firefighter because my uncles are firefighters. And then started pursuing that, but always kind of 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And then I was a reserve for Fountain Valley firefighter. Eventually kept doing all those things, became a paramedic, but was like, dude, what do you really want to do? And when I had children, I'm like, I'm going to tell these 2 boys, I have 2 sons, follow your dreams. And I'm like, I haven't followed my dreams. And I was jealous of all the people on all these social apps. I'm like, I'd never done any of that stuff because you don't get hired as a cop or a firefighter if you're smashing beers on social media, being a silly Billy. But I ended up in Carlsbad after the second time I got fired from a firefighter job in Santa Barbara. And I was the night janitor at Poinsettia Elementary School. And it was the lowest point of my life. I was 37 years old. I'm cleaning toilets. I'm walking around in Bressie Ranch. People are looking at me whose kids go to the school like, what's this guy's deal? And I was listening to podcasts all night. I was praying a lot, going, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? And I just started messing around on Instagram because I wanted to be a stand-up comic. I'd done some of that in my 20s. But when you have 2 little kids and a wife, you can't be out in bars every night practicing your craft of stand-up. So I was like, what's the fastest way to get to the most people? It's through these phones, because everywhere I went, people are just burying them. So I just started making jokes, and that then led to this crazy career of all these different things I do now.
That's so cool, man. You know, it's amazing when I believe that we're all forged through certain pathways because of mistakes we've made. If it wasn't for mistakes, you know, like they say, there's no losing, there's only learning, which you can be a loser too. But, you know, that parallels like, dude, theater kid in the sense of growing up, you know, whether now you want to call it ADHD or not, you know, I think my mom would probably argue this with me, but, you know, I've seen some good points, you know, mainly from Dr. Jordan Peterson. You know, if you take these kids that have the ADDs and ADHDs and you give them something where they thrive, like I found where I thrived. I also am the youngest of 4. I have an older sister and 2 older brothers, and they have an 8, 9, and 10-year gap on me.
Wow.
So my influence growing up was my oldest brother, and still is, a drummer in the music industry, but was punk rock. They built a skate ramp in the backyard in '85. But I was such a spaz. My dad playing football, Parks and Rec basketball, Little League, you know, youth soccer, everything he could. And then he was also an old surfer. You know, he grew up he was a Val from Pasadena, and ended up moving in like the early 60s to Newport. So he's originally from Green Bay. And then in the mid 70s, he moved to a little chunk over here in La Costa where there's maybe a couple like houses and condo complexes where he met my mom. But case in point is, you know, I know what it's like going through. You're like, dude, where's my identity?
That's
like, you knew who you were. What am I going to do though?
So when I looked at your past and I looked at everything and I was reading some of the comments that people write about you and stuff, it's like, oh, you're a white guy from a nice neighborhood, rich kid. Like, how do you end up going down this bad path? Some of the gnarliest dudes I know grew up with everything and made terrible choices.
100%.
And, you know, in South Orange County, ended up in jail. A lot of them are dead. And
Totally.
I remember thinking the same thing, like, what is going on here with these guys? And a lot of us were just lost, completely lost. In my 20s, that is the story of it. Even into my 30s, of who am I? What am I supposed to do with this life? I know I have some gifts. What direction am I supposed to go? And any young guy I can get a hold of, I say to him, I go, dude, you will be so far ahead of all of us if you start making better choices right now instead of just living in the party zone, floating
Totally.
around. Because, yeah, it's kind of easy to do. If mom and dad have a little scratch, have a little money, and you can surf every day, and you can park cars, and you can meet all the chicks, and then, bam, let me tell you how quick time goes by.
Dude.
Your 20s zip by. Your 30s zip by. And then you're sitting around broken, sad. Maybe you've been divorced a couple times, and you're going, what happened to my life?
Where did I go wrong?
And that's not where you want to be, man. Like, if you could just make better decisions earlier on, you will set yourself up for such success in so many ways.
Great point, dude. You know, I'm really blessed to use my story. And like you said, and I'm sure I've read your comments too, you know. I've been called everything in the book.
Right.
But I also put myself out there, so I'm ready for the fire. And I don't care. I don't care.
I love that.
I will be very forthright in my faith in Christ. I'll be forthright that you can call me whatever you want to call me. It won't sway me. I've been through it all. I've been through the refiner's fire, you know, and with all of that and all the stuff you went through, from cop, fired here, got hired here. Next thing you know, what am I doing with my life? I'm a janitor, and I'll respect the janitors because that's not an easy job either, man. We need everything. But you get to those points, man, where, you know, a lot of people generally don't make that right turn, or like you hunker down, like, dude, I'm going all in on these posts now because now I'm getting traction.
So I should say this too. I grew up in a Christian home, going to camps twice a week, youth group, the whole deal.
Same.
And I'm like, I am so blessed. I had godly grandparents, godly parents. My sisters are amazing. I am, for lack of a better word, the black sheep of the family. There is a wild streak inside of me, as I'm sure there is in you,
100%.
That's in a lot of men. And so I knew what was right and what was wrong from a very young age because of the way I was raised. And yet I still always wanted to touch that hot pot.
Yeah.
I wanted to see what was there. So you find yourself hanging out with people that are so gnarly.
Totally.
And in my case, I was John's here. He's our joker.
Yep.
He's our clown. So you find yourself wherever you're at, and you're like, I never paid for weed. It was like, just feed the monkey over here and watch him dance. And I was happy to do that. And I spent the best years of my life doing that. If I could show you some of the things I said and did, like, I had some of the greatest, funniest sets, making people laugh in a garage just like this on a couch.
100%.
You know what I mean? But I look back and I go, dude, what were you doing? What were you doing? It was all sort of for nothing. Yes, I learned from my mistakes, but it literally has taken to, like, right now. Yeah. I would say I was a Christian. If anybody asked, that was my base for sure.
Yeah,
I was baptized.
I didn't care either.
Young.
I'd have some of the most gnarly conversations smoking meth in a garage.
Right.
And I'm like, dude, I'm going to tell you guys one thing right now. As hypocritical as this sounds, I will never, and I've shared this before in my other podcast with Taylor Kavanaugh, an amazing story with him too. You know, SEAL, got kicked out of the SEALs, became a French Foreign Legionnaire.
Yeah, I've listened to his story.
Yeah, you know, an amazing story, but is deny me before man, and I will deny you before my Father. And that's all I ever needed to hear. So whether I was freaking tweaking and hitting the meth pipe with a bunch of homies in the garage, if that came up, I'd be like, look, dude.
I love it.
In fact, I remember, here's a crazy story of just I lived in a tweaker pad off Capistrano in Oceanside, right? Captown. Yep. And my roommate was freaking nutbag, right? He was freaking slamming it, and I was like, I'm never going that far, but I'll still smoke it, you know. But I came home and I had a lazy boy in my room, and, you know, of course, living in a tweaker pad, the doors were always locked, and I walked in, and my lazy boy, you could tell, had, like, he came in and stabbed it a bunch of times. So I walked into his room and I looked at him and I go, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. His nickname was Cat. And he was like, I go, did you stab my chair, dude? Like, I don't get it. Are you trying to, like, bully me or scam me? I pay you rent, you know? I mean, right. we might be living in this tweaked scenario, no pun intended, but, you know, and then I left I left that whole Bible verse too on my door when I left the next day. I'm like, whatever, okay. We're all spun out. But after that, even though I wasn't living in the best, I was still living very much in the world of sin, very sick, very, indoctrinated in my own filth. It's the irony that we still had this, it was still my base. Like, I was never afraid to say, I believe. You can laugh at me, even to go like, well, look at a hypocrite. You're taking a bong hit, but saying you believe in Jesus. Well, you know what? You're never going to be my judge. He will.
Were you raised in a Christian home?
Oh, totally.
Okay. So this is something, I'm so glad we're talking about this. I had the same thing. In my darkest days, I would still, before I would go to sleep, I'm saying a prayer. You know what I mean? It's so far away from walking as a follower of Christ. And it's, again, I don't know why it took so many years. I was the guy that was going to church, because this is how it was in the 90s, like where I went to church. These bigger churches, non-denominational, it was like, we're all living in sin. Just ask for forgiveness. Everything's all right. I wasn't reading my Bible ever. I was just sitting there listening to the preacher explain the Bible. And then when I realized through listening to things and just enough life that the Bible is first meant to be believed and then to be obeyed.
Yeah.
Right? That was like a turning point for me, where I went, oh my goodness, you can't have one foot in the world and one foot out. It doesn't work. It doesn't jive.
No.
Yeah, it's just so interesting. I'll say this, I think it's having a mom and dad that were just praying for me all the time.
Dude.
Going, please let my crazy son like not crash his car, not get killed, that's the only thing that can explain it, because I've had a million chances.
Yeah.
I'm sure you feel the same way.
Dude, I mean, you just...
And why does it take us...
I feel like we might have been separated at birth. Like, our stories are so... The youngest, the struggles, the higher the fire, they all... But
are we dumb? Like,
yeah.
Why does it take so much to...
Start a podcast
to shake us up?
Or talk shit on the surfing platform.
I mean, I just... Anyways, I stand amazed, and despite all this, you have a beautiful woman in your life. I have a beautiful woman in my life that I every day I wake up, I go, how this happened?
Dude.
This wasn't supposed to happen.
Just dumbfounded, man.
Yep.
Again, man, like the good old saying that we use, because I'm also a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, is, God continues to do for me what I can't do for myself.
Amen.
And, using these paths and platforms, I think now, again, too much is given, much is also expected. So,
right.
Another thing is like, hey man, I'm not perfect. I'm just forgiven. So a lot of me, has to look back on, times that I've snapped in the water, or, just a lot
remember,
of it.
why did you yell at me that day?
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I was in the wrong, but why'd you have to get so
that's
crazy?
Jonathan Wayne Freeman, darn it. He's such a sweetheart.
I had a sorry to interrupt.
Go ahead, no.
But I had a good run there when I was on Kook of the Day all the time, where even if I burned somebody bad, they wouldn't say anything because they were afraid that we were going to light them up on Kook of the Day.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, no.
Yeah.
But I never did.
I love it.
If I'm in the wrong, you say you're in the wrong.
We love Kook of the Day, too. Maybe you guys help this podcast, too. I'm just a little guy, man, about 4,700 followers,
That's great.
No, I don't care. I look at, and I think you can tell this, too, to a lot of your followers. If you're striving for the clicks and the likes and the shares and the follow, you're in the wrong spot. I don't care. I just want to tell stories, and if people want to watch it and listen to it, amen. If not, that's okay too.
Follow your heart, not your head. And it's never the thing that's going to blow up that you think it is. It's always some random throwaway thing, and then you're like, what? That's what you like? There's no rhyme or reason. The best thing you can strive for is authenticity. That's what people respond to.
100%.
No, there's no other formula.
Be who you are.
Absolutely.
Wholeheartedly. Don't be who your friends want you to be or who you think you need to be. That's a huge spot on.
In a world of fake, be real. As much as even the people that are on, you see all the time, they're like, I'm a real one. You're like, are you?
Yeah.
Are you?
Oh, yeah.
You want to just be yourself, flaws and all.
I see a lot of cats, right? And I never say anything, and I'm not going to say anything now in the sense of dude, I've been so blessed to use my story, go back, get an education. I, too, was in the prison fire camp system.
Mm-hmm.
I got out of fire camp. I had some CAL FIRE captains that worked in the CDC system at the camps that believed in me. It helped me believe in myself.
That's awesome.
I was a swamper. So a swamper in the wildland fire crew system is the inmate firefighter that listens to the comms and sits in the front seat with the CDF captain or CAL FIRE captain now. And then the rest of the inmate firefighters are in the back. It's about I want to say maybe like a 12-man crew or something like that. But I just remember one time a call came in and we were doing some trail maintenance out in Ramona. And I've used his name before, Captain Tracy Colburn, CAL FIRE, much love and respect. And here's what I'm getting at is a call came in. He goes, "You want to be a fireman, Glade, when you get out, right?" I said, "Yep." He goes, "Write down every last resource they're calling in right now," which you'll never be able to write that fast, right? All the water tenders, air attack, crews, engines, brush rigs, blah, all that. I get done, and he's looking at it. He's like, "You'll never be a firefighter." He goes, "But you can firefight with me, though." And I was like, he's told me I'll never be a firefighter. That's all I needed to hear. So for the past couple fires that were getting called in, and we were pretty lucky to fight a lot. I'd also made good contacts because he was a tough ass, right? He wasn't going to give you any letters of recommendation because a lot of guys try, and I'm not the only one, get out and do the hot shot thing for real. So when you're not an orange. But if that one moment right there was the old phrase, the paradigm shift for me, because then I was pushing and advocating to the Department of Corrections lieutenant that ran the fire camp. As a matter of fact, Lieutenant Taylor, rest in peace, he died shielding somebody in the Vegas country music concert shooting. An amazing guy, but I'm trying not to get choked up. He allowed classes to get taught because I pushed. I go, "Look, Lou, Lieutenant." I was like, "Look, Lou, you got guys that want to learn their chainsaws. They want to learn standard fire, wildland fire behavior tactics and strategies. And then you got captains here, Lieutenant Taylor, that can also teach these. They're all guys that can give these certs out." So he's like, "Okay, let me talk to him." So I showed my captain, because we're also the toughest crew. We hike the best. We cut the most line. You aren't going to mess with the Lacima crew, too. I don't know what they're at now. I don't even know if the camp is around with the way the system is. But case in point, man, we're all going to have these things in life where you're going to really want it. So basically, when I got out, I had a couple captains put in a good word. So I was down at Sequan on the Golden Eagles hot shots, fighting wildfire for a while. And again, though, I got too comfortable. Wasn't sober anymore. Started smoking a little bit of weed. Started showing up late to fire calls. At that time, my dad was also sick, so that was a great excuse, which my dad would smack my head now. Like, he wasn't that kind of dad, but proverbially, we're getting a call, and you have to leave your phone on all night. It's a wildfire call coming at 3. Like, "All right, guys, we're on call because of the current, fire status right now. It's at yellow or red." And eventually, because of prison, the 2 lines of work I was ever in was fitness and firefighting, 2 things that I learned in there. And I found like, oh, I can do something with this, right? And I'm so grateful for fitness and action sports because it's got me right here in front of you right now. But to kind of weave back into what you were saying on, there's a lot of these dudes out there that are on social media for the wrong reasons, or they're an influencer, or they're a real one. And I was getting at, I'm not the only dude that's got tattoos and has a podcast and made it out of prison, but I'm also not here to push an agenda that's me. The agenda is not Brandon. The agenda is hope. And let's have some fun and share some laughs doing it too. It doesn't have to be too serious. You got to eat your macros and do 1,000 burpees and nah.
That's the thing though, man. That's what I go back and forth with. Like, it can't be about you. There has to be something bigger. And I'm in a place right now where, years on doing this thing and doing it for a living, I'm like, okay, that's great. You make people laugh. Cool. That's awesome. They comment, whatever. But it's me. Like, it's, it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want that to be what I do moving forward. I'm thankful for where it's gotten me, whatever platform you have, whatever this means, your brand, this, that, the other thing. But I don't know, man. I think that really like where the meat is sharing with other people, being honest, and trying to help people, because that's so much more impactful. If you can help change somebody's life, help them make better decisions, that's way greater than making them ha 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 laugh. At least for me.
Yeah.
Now I love that, but at the same time, like listening to your story, I think you should go talk to these fire crews. You know what I mean? You're an example of somebody who's been through this thing, come out on the other side, and you don't hear a lot of those stories. You hear so much, you're in the system, you stay in the system. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I appreciate you saying like you were going back and dabbling and stuff, you know, smoking a little weed and this and that, because that's reality. Like, and I've done the same thing over and over.
Especially
like,
with substance abuse. Like for me, if you struggle with it, for me, I always say, at least personally, sobriety is also, you know, not to use the parallel with like fitness, but sobriety is a muscle. If you don't work it out, it grows weak, and you're going to act on that weakness. And it might not be going back to meth or heroin, but drinking and weed can pull you down to a hole too.
I have played this stupid game with myself for so long. Like you'll be on, you're not drinking, and then you'll have an edible. Like, so you're going surfing, and some guy's like, "Yeah, dude, take 5 milligrams." And for me, I have come to realize the saying that some can, you can't.
Yeah.
I cannot, because that 5 milligrams will lead to 6 days later, I'm sitting in a bar with some chucklehead and we're smashing beers. And then my wife's like,
yeah,
yo, bro, I'm about to bounce. Like, how old are you?
Yeah. Where are you at?
Where are you at? So, and that's like, you don't want to realize that about yourself. For me, that is how it goes. Like I'm an extremely sensitive person to everything. Any substances.
Yeah.
If we walk in a room, I can sense, I'm just like, that's the way God built me.
Yeah.
I'm a sensitive dude. And it's taken me so many years to go, all right, this is who you are, dude. They can do this. They can maybe moderate it, but you can't, brother. And this will kill you.
Yeah.
And the second you realize that, you're like, you don't want to realize that about yourself, because you're like, oh, I'm a dude, I can hang. But no, we, I don't know. People like myself, like, this is just how we're wired. This is what it is.
Yeah.
This is how God made us, and there's a much better plan.
Yeah.
And it always just leads to the awfulness. So if you're out there, like, I mean, this is why things like this, if you hear somebody like us talking, and you're one of those types of people, man, there's such a better life for you than just this cycle of stupidity.
Listen, youngsters, if you're out there watching it, and especially with John's platform, just remember one thing, man. I'm not saying, and he's not saying, don't go out. Go experience life. Go see what's out there. But 9 times out of 10, if you think the grass is greener on the other side, it's probably fertilized with bullshit. And you're going to come to your senses one day, like he said, in your 30s, and be like, going, what happened, where I'm at? If you're still sitting at a bar talking about the latest, greatest business plan, intermittently taking bumps in the bathroom, you got it twisted, dude. And I'm not shaming you for it. I was that same guy. But don't get this at 46 or 45.
Dude, bro.
Get this at 30 and at 28 and stuff like that. Zach, how old are you? 30. Killing it, dude. And look at the producer director of this show is an amazing videographer, and we copy him. Got married young, he's got a beautiful kid, a dog, a house, a job, surfs, living the dream.
Absolutely. I am confident too. I think the younger generation, I say like 15 years younger than me, 20 years, I think they're a lot smarter. And to be completely transparent,
agreed.
Like literally I fell off the wagon like 23 days ago. And it was after a long stretch of sobriety.
Right.
For Noah, this is a stupidity. I am a dumb man. I am like, sometimes
when you say fell off the wagon,
I had never been to the Swallows Inn in San Juan Capistrano. So I'm going about my day.
Wait, where's it at again?
It's right next to the Mission.
That's
in San Juan Capistrano. And it's this old cowboy bar. And I'm like, I've never been in there. And it's like 12:30 in the afternoon. How have I not been in this bar my whole life? I've heard about it. A guy came in on a horse. He ordered a beer. I'm just going to walk in there by myself on like a Tuesday. And guess what that turned into? That turned into, now we're going to Turks in Dana Point, and then me going back to all these dives I used to go to my wife going, what are you doing? To me in the guest room at the point of almost blacking out, and my 9-year-old son walking in the room and just setting a Bible on the bed. And my other son coming in and sitting next to me, and after I vomited a couple times on the carpet and just didn't care and was like, my wife will clean it up. And him saying, what's wrong with you? Like, you're scaring me.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Like,
we appreciate your transparency.
No. I mean, that's the only
that's
way.
What people also love, right?
You have to be.
They want to know that the Joker also was blacked out and vomiting after going on a sick one.
Correct.
His whole
going on a sick one, and it's not that sick.
And it ain't sick, bro.
It ain't sick. No. And what happens with me is, you're never. It doesn't matter. But you just. It's just.
I love it.
There's such a better way, guys. There's such a.
I'll tell you what. This thing went way. I was. Dude, I'm getting freaking hot too, dude. This way? Are we gonna keep this in the podcast?
Yeah, dude. You gots to.
Yeah, you have to. Because I'm probably gonna take my shirt off, but that's just because I'm sweating to the oldies. Coffee.
I almost
did you
up.
make your pour over today? I did. There's one thing you want to know about me, dude. I am a coffee snob. But I'm also a coffee fiend because I will go. Is this better? Yeah. I will go to if I don't have what I want, but I just need coffee. I'll gladly go to the gas station coffee and. That
a boy. There you go.
I'm not above.
Sugar and cream, or are you straight?
It depends on my mood, but I'm not afraid of it.
Okay.
I'll go John Wayne. I'll go all black.
There you go.
Or I'll go sugar cream. My wife loves the Silk almond. It's an old Rogan line, but it's like almond milk. You can't milk almonds, which I love. It's just a cloudy water mixed with some almond debris and who knows what else. But I love the silk creamer and the sweet cream and the vanilla silk creamer, vanilla flavor, sweet cream flavor. But some days I just want that bark. I want that, especially because I'll do two things: French press or pour over if I have the time.
Yeah.
If not, I'll do Keurig or percolator or 7-Eleven.
How many? Just a curious question. Just sidebar. How many coffees does it take you to get to maybe just like a sprinkle of meth? That sort of experience that.
Right now. No, I'm just kidding.
Dude, I got to straight up. I got to tell you,
dude. Espressos and stuff like that for sure. Working
on the ambulance and working just in all the jobs I've done. Meth is the soul snatcher of drugs. It is. I have never seen a substance that like straight up. It is.
I shouldn't laugh, but it's either laugh or
It
cry.
is the wildest. The stories and the things I've seen because of that substance are mind blowing. It truly is. If you could stay away from one thing, it's always like, is it heroin or meth?
Yeah.
I'm like, well, two opposites. One, we got a depressant. It's gonna shut down your respiratory drive.
Yeah.
Or the other one, you're gonna be just riding a bicycle while you're holding another bicycle next to it.
Yeah.
Going to God knows where with some copper wire, living in a riverbed.
How many times have we all seen that as one dude riding a bike and ghost riding one next to him? Oh, yeah, those
true.
You bought those.
But also you become this creature that is truly, meth is ahead of their time, right? You're not a man, you're not a woman, you're like asexual. The men look the same, the women look the same. You get the sunken face, you lose your teeth. You're like this creature of the night that just prowls. It is devastating. And
I'm so happy to have teeth and make a sentence. Dude.
What was your long? I'm sorry. I'm not saying this to. I'm just genuinely curious.
Ask.
Your longest run with no sleep.
You know what's crazy that you bring that up, because I've had this conversation before with other dope fiends, and I just, because the system will eventually shut down. I remember smoking it and with the glass pipe, and I remember having like the old mesh basketball shorts on.
Sick.
And I was probably on maybe like a 2.5 day run, but I was hitting it and I was falling asleep when you're not supposed to fall asleep on meth. But I remember it hit my shorts and like melted the plastic to my leg. Oh, and I woke up and I just remember like, well, I nodded and I came back to, and I was like, all right, dude, like that last shroud of like sensible brain of mine was like, you're falling asleep now smoking meth. So me personally, 2.5, maybe three days.
Yeah.
People that could go for weeks, I have a hard time believing it because I was also around those people, and eventually your body just shuts down.
Yeah.
And I was also a heroin addict. It's funny, I was a tweaker, and I used to make fun of the heroin addicts being like, I won't miss a thing.
You wanted
guys
to
are over there
cover
falling
everything.
asleep.
Just get a little, I want the whole collection.
Here's the long of the, here's a short of the long. So, I was a tweaker, and I got clean, and then I blew my knee out skateboarding. And I had a homie, and I had no insurance. I had a homie give me a big like Ziploc bag full of Norcos.
Oh yeah.
So I took all the Norcos and like Skittles, because that
Yep.
the dope fiend addictive side of me was like, this isn't take as prescribed. And he was like a wakeboarder guy too, so his knees were already blown out. Next thing you know, those are gone. I had a buddy turn me on to oxys. Those are too expensive. And I was like, dude, I know the homies in the hood. Heroin's an opioid molecule. That's all I need.
You're a scientist.
Next thing you
all
know,
of a
I'm
sudden.
freaking smoking heroin. And I'm like, in my mind, I'm going, you turned into the exact people you used to make fun of when you were a tweaker.
Mm.
And I had this, like, I hate to say come to Jesus moment, but if you will, like going, and I was probably in my mid-30s at that time. And I remember the most brutal thing I've ever been through in my life was kicking heroin. And I didn't have, generally when I kicked any drugs, I was locked up, so I didn't have a choice. You're not going to just find drugs readily available. Plus Brandon was so sick and tired of Brandon, after 3 terms of incarceration. But I remember, here's the clincher. When you kick heroin or any opioid, the withdrawal is insomnia. So I got more sleep tweaking. And here's the reason why people never get off opioids is because I know firsthand. Because you're just looking to feel better. Your bones, like, dude, I remember hitting my arms because I was like, it was itching, dude. And my everything was aching. And I just remember one day I was crying. I was like, God, I know I deserve this. I know I deserve this. And it took me 12 days till finally I remember I was a dude that was sponsoring me in AA. Even though I was a dope fiend, I still just chose AA. It's the same thing. Just take the word alcohol and put meth or heroin in the place of it, and it all makes sense. He let me come to the job site, and I would show up no sleep, just flopping like a freaking exorcism all night long. And I told him, I go, look, man, I don't want to take methadone, and I don't want to take Suboxone, because all that stuff, you have to kick that too. I goes, what I will do is I'm going to buy an ounce of the most death weed I can find. I always say this, smoking weed to help detox from opioids or heroin or oxys or fentanyl. I was never into fentanyl. That wasn't really around. This is granted. I've had a couple hiccups on weed and alcohol and mushrooms. I've kept it organic my last couple relapses, but I haven't done anything hardcore since September 12, 2012. But anyways, to shorten the story up, I would show up to work, and we were working at a remodel in Oceanside. And I remember finally, everyone knew that I was kicking dope, so they knew that I wasn't sleeping good at night. In fact, I wasn't sleeping at all. But I would smoke my brain to a fog and just lay there and just twitch like a glitchy carcass. And I remember one day I finally woke up to my alarm going off, and I had felt like I won the lottery, because mind you, I was already awake waiting for my alarm to go off as I was going through the withdrawal symptoms of kicking dope, heroin, opioids. And I remember showing up that day, and my buddy Pat, love you Pat Moss, amazing surfer, also sober, kills it, charges, lives in Kauai. He's like a brother to me. He looks over at me, and he was one of the carpenters on the site. He's like, how we doing? I was like, dude, I got sleep. And everyone like stood up and started cheering on the job site, because they all walked me through it, dude. And that's another, there's so many, like, I'm sure you can look back too, John. There's so many amazing stories of like, it's only an act of God, a reason why I'm here.
Absolutely.
Telling the story with you.
Absolutely.
For some reason. Someone's going to watch this and laugh and cry. And, the irony that you came on, and this is totally off the subject now, is like, I was like, hey, God, I just want you, I've been a fan of the dude's stuff, but I know there's a real side to him. And this one, I thought we were going to talk shit and chuckle the most of the time. But
I know. But I
also didn't want, that's what you do all the time.
Doing a dive on you, I mean, how can I have more questions for you than you probably have for me. And may I ask you a question?
Yeah, for sure.
Is that okay? Do you think, and this is a personal question, did you have trauma when you were young, or do you think you're just a straight up love the dopamine release, love the ride? Like, what kind of, why? Or just a wild boy?
Just growing up, dude, like I said, my brothers built a skate ramp. And my brothers weren't like big skaters, but they were definitely into like, dude, we were having punk rock concerts at our house. And this is in the 80s, dude, when everything was a subculture. Everything's corporatized now. And here I am at 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old. And that's my biggest influences is all these vagabonds. And my mom and my dad, solid Christians. As my mom would say, drugs and alcohol didn't run in the family. It galloped. Oh. But we were still a family of faith. And there's 2 suicides in my family. But they would also be the house where my mom's like, if you guys are going to do it, you might as well be at my house where I know you're safe. So, dude, she let us have parties. And when I say let us, my brothers and my sister were in high school. Like I said, they're 8, 9, and 10 years my elder. So I grew up way ahead of time. My dad, I watched my dad, rest in peace, amazing man. I watched him. He went to, dude, his drug of choice was vodka. But he wasn't like, he was functional. He worked. He provided. My 3 brothers and my 2 brothers and my sister were from a prior marriage of my mom, and I was a bastard kid. So my stepdad raised all of us. Which I never call him my stepdad. He was our dad. He loved us. They just don't build men like that anymore. Most guys, you get into a relationship with a woman that's got 4 kids, 3 from one marriage and 1 from a fling. Like, you're probably hit it and quit it or whatever the case may be. Sorry, Mom. She knows, though. She loves the fact that Christ is first. And people need to know that you're going to go through stuff. But back to the answer to your question, nothing trauma, dude. Like, my brother Evan and I are really tight. I love him to death. We still do a lot together. Judo, dirt bike.
Sanshi Judo. Shout out. My kids used to go there.
Right on.
Best deal in the world. In
Dude,
Vista.
there's such
Get
a great,
your kids in that program.
Love you, Sanshi Judo. Amazing. God bless you guys. And crazy part, in the 80s, my brother was one of the first students at Sanshi.
Wow.
Hopefully I got that right, but I'm pretty sure. Something like that. Because Ernie Matsubara, who is an amazing human, who's the father of my best friend, Temujin Matsubara, direct lineage from Japan, and his grandfather, Sachio Matsubara, from the actual judo itself. Anyway, so my brother Evan and I were the tightest because he was the middle. My brother Morgan was the oldest, so he was like the cool drummer, had the big hair, was always playing in bands, still in the music industry to this day. My sister was the only girl out of the boys, but my brother and I were tough, dude. He would take me to punk shows and all that, and beat up on me. So I always acted out in school because no one was going to beat me up worse than my older brother. None of you guys that are my age. So that didn't really translate well. Sometimes, too, God bless him, he kind of carries that sometimes. Like, dang, dude, I wonder if I was just too tough on you and you just freaking went crazy. But no trauma. Like, nobody touched my butthole, which I'm really grateful for.
Yeah, amen.
And if it happened, that's okay. It's okay. I try to do serious and joking and seriously joking. So,
So it sounds to me like this combination of you're looking up to these dudes that are around you.
John's interviewing me now, you guys.
That are wild. Well, I'm genuinely curious. And at the same time, some genetic factors runs in the family.
For sure.
Yeah. Okay.
For sure.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I can say there's, a few that on mom and dad's side that had some substance issues, some alcohol issues for sure.
Yeah.
And it's even permeated down to nieces and nephews and stuff like that. And my family's dug in North County for the most part like cockroaches. Like my dad's side, although by way of like Wisconsin, Green Bay, through the 70s, 80s till now was like Encinitas, Carlsbad, Vista, Oceanside.
Dude, this is my favorite thing among surfers, and I never see it more than when I'm in Santa Cruz. You'll be in the water, and some guy will go, "Where are you from?" And I'm talking like if you are from Santa Cruz, and the other person will go, "I'm from blah, blah, blah." They'll name their thing, and they'll go, "Are you West Side? Are you East Side? Are you Midtown?" I never knew there was a Midtown. And they'll go back and forth, and then they'll just start yelling at each other about where they're from and who's more local. But I'm going to claim my local status now, right?
Yeah.
My family, the Freemans, Freeman Street, that's my family.
Yeah.
My family came out from Texas in the 1800s.
Sick.
And they're buried in this little cemetery where the Protestants were buried in front of the mission in San Luis Rey. in Oceanside. And yeah, it's crazy that I
ain't no
ended
more
up
local
there.
than that. To all my O-side homies.
1800s, Oceanside. What's up?
Yeah.
What's up,
Yep.
y'all?
For more OG than quadruple OG. I love it, dude. Yeah, dude. That permeates everywhere, you know, and I love it, but also there's a level to it where you're like, all right.
Oh, dude, I don't even everything now. I'm just like, let's go surf. Let's have fun.
Yeah.
You can bark, you can yell. I will be moving down the beach, going somewhere else.
Yeah.
I do not care at this point.
Yeah, I need to get better. I need to get more like you on that.
It's all right. You know, it's fun. Do you take testosterone? Your T's still high? I think I got low T. It's like
I don't. But I'll tell you right now. You know, speaking of, if you look at this beautiful wall, some amazing athletes I've been able to work with. I have a whole bunch of memorabilia I've been hung up from surf, skate, snow. NFL, NBA, UFC, boxing. I've studied, you have to study like, you know, outside of like just getting your 7-month cert to be a personal trainer.
Sure.
You know, the strength and conditioning coach, which is my little CSCS, certified strength and conditioning specialist. You have to study anabolics. And yeah, have I tried it? No, but I haven't, not at the level where you'd look at me and go like, holy cow. But I did a little, I'm 46 now. I tried a little bit back when I was 40 and like 41, did a couple cycles, you know, but like, it was like maybe 2 milligrams every Monday, as opposed to like dudes that actually use it are doing like every 3.5 days, 8 to 10 milligrams, you know, and you can obviously know when you see them too.
Speaking of testosterone, I can feel this dog's testosterone. It's so overwhelming because he's still got his balls.
Yeah.
Which I don't. I got a vasectomy. Ever since I got the vasectomy.
Your wife.
Dude, they trick you. These women trick you. I have no interest in anything related to the opposite sex. It's like I'm a dead man. It's horrible. Don't do it, boys.
That's right. Well,
keep having babies into your 80s.
Yeah.
This dog right now is like, dude, I'm sitting on a limp noodle.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Oh, that's so rad. That Bolt is just, dude, he's so stoked to be sitting there.
Bolts.
That's so rad.
Yeah.
So go ahead. What were you going to say?
No, I didn't say anything. I'm going to stop interviewing you now.
Well, I want to know, and I think everyone wants to know, at what point when you started posting, like for me, the end all be all was like, oh my God, we're all sitting at work, right? So shout out to Nakoa Performance. You know, we're all huge fans of comedy and surf and sport. And, you know, it's a performance facility, an amazing department of physical therapy, and then out also on the strength conditioning floor. But we're all sitting around watching your God, this is, I don't know, maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, your post about golf.
Yep.
You know, honey, you could only be so lucky. I come home bronzed, maybe
looking
3
like
to
a
4
Greek
hours.
god.
Look like
That's
a Greek
right.
god. I'm not drunk, coming home whammied. Yeah. And there's a lot of like, I always say, you're either a surfer who golfs or you're a golfer who surfs. So you got to take a pick, you know, because tons of my friends, I had a friend give me a golf set and I've gone and it's fun, but I just can't do it like some of my friends do.
I get it. I get it.
But,
Don't do it, man. Don't get sucked in.
No,
yeah,
my new thing right now is riding my enduro that's out there. So golfing is definitely.
Dude, that was one of the big ones that I did, and I basically, it's sad because I was not a golfer at the time, and that was all about like making fun of golfers and how surfing's superior, and then I got sucked into the golf vortex, and then everybody just started going, "You're the worst, you hypocrite." Now you're. But again, if you have that addictive...
But that's okay, though. Like, you being okay with, like, talking smack about them and then, you know, becoming an avid golfer who loves it, I think it's still great. You're outside. It's fun. You're with your friends. One thing I did love about golf, like, all of my hobbies are like rock 'em, sock 'em, roll out. Surf, skate, snow, snowboard, wakeboard, Muay Thai, judo, riding dirt bikes. Like, golfing gave me all those elements, but it wasn't so fast-paced. But you still can get frustrated and it still drives you to want to get better. And that's where I found out, I was like, dude, I got to put these clubs down.
All it's done is made me realize what a basket case I am. That's what golf will do to you because it's all between the ears and you'll be sitting there just going, I'm a maniac. Whether it comes to your temper, you lack patience, your friends will chirp, say a little word, and it throws off your whole game.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you are an unstable gentleman. That's what it's taught me. But also, I want to say this, and this is really cool. It was a write-off because I was working for a golf company for like 2.5 years. So my wife was like, go play as much golf as you want. We're writing this off. And I was
What a saint.
yes, let's go.
What's her name, if you don't mind sharing?
Her name's Gigi.
Gigi, God bless your heart for
Yes. Good Lord.
and
what
my
a
wife
lady.
Jessica that put up with dudes like us that are just freaking flaring like a pack of hemorrhoids. I could be going left, right, up, or down. You just never know.
Same. I said something crazy to my wife yesterday. And you know what? Here's the key. This is what I think is the greatest key to a partner in life. Quick to forgive. Like if
Yeah.
you can find somebody who doesn't hold on to stuff, because we all say stuff at times, we don't mean it. If they're quick to forgive, man, you're in a beautiful spot. If you got somebody that holds on to stuff for days and weeks or months or years, good luck. Good luck.
Yeah, you're to be dragging that down. And then I don't know if you want to say what golf company. So when that morphed in, what was the aha moment for you as far as this social media platform you have now?
Dude, the biggest thing that happened was Kook of the Day, who I was a huge fan of, right? As a surfer, everything happened organically. Like I wasn't intentionally setting out to do anything other than make people laugh. And you start out like anybody on Instagram, you got no followers. Then you got 300. Then you got 1,000. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I have 1,000. And initially it was me as a night janitor just being a weirdo. And people were like, what's this guy doing? I would pretend that the school was haunted and I'm running through the school and you can hear the keys shaking and like just dumb stuff. But then being a surfer, I was saying things that only surfers understood and the surfers started picking up on it. Then growing up where we grew up coastally, mocking some of the behaviors of the people that live here that are, so think they're so awesome that I know these people. I'm like, you're not that rad. Right. So you're making these jokes. But I saw that Kook of the Day was kind of going a different direction. And if you don't know what Kook of the Day was, it was started by a guy who worked in a surf shop who would see people who put on their wetsuits backwards and stuff, and he would film them, right? And then you post it. And the nature of the site was, dude, some people really don't like to see them popping up as the Kook of the Day. But if you're in public, there's no law against filming somebody. So you see people with their fins in backwards at the beach, this, that, the other thing. But he wanted to take it in more of a direction of like having a face of the brand and doing skits. And I told my wife, I go, dude, that's me. I can do that. And she's like, well, prove it. You always are talking about how you really want to be a comedian. The firefighter thing didn't work out. So show me what you got. And it was like her giving me approval. And also, believe it or not, being afraid of like growing up a Christian, my parents, and like, what will my parents think? Turns out they love me no matter what.
Yeah.
You can tell when you're making a joke. Yes, you're going to use some colorful language sometimes. So Kook of the Day, I think they had 800,000 followers at the time, started posting some of my videos. And then that exploded my personal page, which led...
Like you must have been getting home and going like... Oh,
so
dang.
fun. Loved it. Like going, this is the funnest thing ever. And then what did I want growing up? Free clothes. I'm not good enough to be a sponsored surfer. All of a sudden, I got my own surfboard model with Stretch, who it's
sick.
like Nathan Fletcher.
Dude, I mean,
you know what I mean? And then there's this...
That 5150 model that Nate's got I got plenty of boards. There's a stack back there, but that's sick. No shit.
And so people are always like, did you make money off Instagram? I'm like, no. Instagram was nothing. Like, and I still feel this way. Any of these social media platforms, they're like your business card to show, hey, here's what I can do. This is who I am. And you meet people and you physically, they'll be like, let's go get coffee. And they're business owners. And in my case, a lot of them were surfers that have very successful companies. And you meet them and sometimes, maybe 9 out of 10 times you meet with somebody, nothing comes from it. But one of those times, oh my gosh, suddenly you're the face of their brand. And then those relationships sometimes turn into years. And another weird one, crazy one, Bug Assault, which is the gun that shoots flies with salt.
Love it.
Dude who started that was hanging wallpaper till he was 51 years old. They made $35 million last year. It is massive. He surfs. He found me on Kook of the Day in 2020 and we met, went surfing. And he was like, you grew up hunting? Like you have this mustache, you know how to handle firearms, you know how to speak redneck? I'm like, that's my world. And you surf? So then you're in commercials for them. And then you end up on Joe Rogan. My commercial, Joe Rogan watched it for Bug Assault with this comedian, Brian Simpson.
So cool. I saw
and
that.
We give all the guns to, or Bug Assault gives all the guns to the comedy club that he has, the Mothership. And so you get to go there and get the VIP treatment. So all of these things happen.
Have you got to see Kill Tony yet?
I've been to Kill Tony. Yeah.
Dude, so
Yeah. I used to go to Kill Tony I used to lie to my wife and tell her I was at work as a paramedic when I called in sick and would go up to the Comedy Store in LA to watch all those guys.
Oh yeah, the original spot.
Yeah, back in like 2016, 2015. And
because I forget too, you're a lot like me in the sense, well, a lot, almost scary, but totally wanted to, and still have these ideologies in my head of like just trying to stand up one day somewhere, you know.
It's so fun. It's absolutely ruthless. So I mean, there's no feeling like,
yeah,
I put this together thinking this was going to get laughs, and then just however many people in the audience just staring at you like, dude,
yeah,
can you get no laughs? It will break you.
Yeah.
You literally have to love it.
Yeah.
But I always tell people,
you've done a few, didn't you?
Yeah, dude. I've been invited to do it, but people think it's like, if you're not practicing all the time,
No, dude.
good luck. Unless that audience loves you, like they're your people, good luck. It's a craft that you have to work on all of the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But yeah, I say to people, I go, dude, had I not been at rock bottom, which is what I was when I was a janitor, just like depressed, going, what am I going to do with my life? And then it was like, we're going to go for it.
Yeah.
We're going to go for it. Sink or swim. Like you're going to put the vibe out there. This is who you are. If people think you're funny, great. If they don't, whatever. And it led to the most incredible things. Like I would never be sitting here with you right now. I always wanted to be on podcasts. I'm like, how do I get on a podcast? And then you come up with these creative things in your head. You send them out to the world. Sometimes people love them. Sometimes people hate them.
Yeah.
So be it.
Let's talk about the stuff people hate, especially in the leftist culture of the action sports industry.
Sure.
Here's what I'll preface this with is
I have so much to say.
You can't cancel me because look at my story. I've already been canceled multiple times, so whatever happens. Another thing is they or them think that just because, for instance, this last election, yeah, I know you love it. This last election, I walked in to my work, and shout out to my brother that owns the facility. In 2020 during COVID, he probably leaned a little blue, was rolling with the Crips, and then realized the hypocrisy involved with what the sanctions and lockdowns, and being that he is a business owner and an entrepreneur, he just wasn't having it. And then just obviously do your research over time. You don't got to be, because let's face it, right wing, left wing, you're part of the same bird, but extremity is extremity, right? And I'm a pretty center of the road kind of guy. Obviously, being Christian, you can call me more conservative, regardless of my story and my drugs and crime and being a punk. But I walked in because the Democrats have been in power 12 of the last 16 years, right? And I walked into work and I was like, wow. And I wore this hat because this hat's obviously a play on Make America Great Again. And I wore a bunch of red, white, and blue stuff. And most of my work's blue. And
wait, is this going where I think it's going? Did you vote for Trump?
Can you believe that?
I think that's a wrap. Can we go ahead and
see?
No, I can't. Keep going.
So I walk in and I'm like, yeah. I look at everybody and they know, like, I look at everybody after that. This is probably where I went wrong. And I look at everybody and I go, shut the fuck up. Right? And because my buddy that owns the place is like, dude, we don't have an HR there. Be who you are. We do great business. We've created a great community there. Anyway, dude that I love, and he'll maybe watch this, maybe he won't, that is like a friend, a mentor, an amazing exercise scientist in my mind. He literally is. I could tell he was perturbed because I came in hot, and this is, at 5:45 a.m. and I'm fire. I didn't sleep. I don't think a lot of us did. I just wanted America to change. I think we're sick and tired of drag queen story hour and stuff like that. And I'm a small business owner, so I want help. Sure. I go over there and I give him a hug. He's like, "Don't you fucking hug me ever. Don't ever do that again. You're one of the most divisive people in my circle of friends." And in my mind, I go, Probably because everyone in your circle believes the same rhetoric and the same indoctrination and the same politics that you do, and I don't. So I'm the divisive one, right? On the outside, I said, hey, dude, I'm sorry, man. Who have I divided? What did I do? Can I apologize to him? Inside, I just want to, but he's a good dude, right? He's a good father, good husband, an amazing strength conditioning coach. But that just showed me right there, too. It's like, okay, if you don't believe, like, for instance, this black dude had posted something on Instagram, and he said, I'm going to test the fish tank. I'm going to do a post that says I'm pro Kamala, and I'm whatever, Kamala, and then I'm pro Trump. He goes, here's the irony in the comments I was getting. He goes, when I posted stuff on the left, hi, honey, are you leaving? Babe.
Hi, how are you? Nice to meet you.
That's Jonathan
I'm
Wayne
John.
Freeman. That's
Hi.
my wonderful wife, Jessica.
Nice to meet you, Jessica.
We were just talking about how you guys put up with us. Yeah. Have fun. Love you. Bye.
too. Take care.
Bolt, get down. Make up your. Anyway, so this dude in his post made the point where he's like, the right-sided comments were like, hey, dude, we might not agree with you, but he's a dude that does a lot of work in Chicago, at-risk youth, tough neighborhoods. I mean, they call it Chirac for a reason, right? And he goes, yeah, so most of the people that, I'd said I was voting democratically that were Republicans were like, hey, dude, we don't agree with you on that one, but I love the work you do in the community. Best of luck to you. All good. He goes, the left that commented on the fact that I said I was going to vote for Trump are like going, we disown you. We can't believe it. You should be ashamed of yourself. You're a disgrace to your people, your race. So I just seen enough of it, dude. Like, you don't need to be a scientist. You don't need to be so polarized to realize, like, dude, at what point do you just go, why are eggs freaking $7? Why is gas? Why are people struggling to live? And, you can have plenty of those people that make that argument. And that was it for me. It wasn't like, dude, Donald Trump's obviously no saint, but none of them are. You got to pick the lesser of two evils, correct? But loving the fact that you stood up and went out there, because, like, I knew a kid that was, I won't say his name, but he rips. He's a QS kid. He's probably make the CT, San Clemente kid. I'll tell you when we're done. But he was riding for Vans at the time. And he knew that he was over it because he was like, Coach, I just went to Vans to pick up a package, and they have every propaganda left's flag hanging in there. You don't have to say what flag. You can just, multiple. No American flag, but all these propaganda flags. And obviously we know Vanity Fair bought Vans years ago. I don't know if they bought it, whatever. But to me, it's like, okay, why, for one? For two, what does that do for anybody? And for three, think of the people that are silenced, like gay, straight, left, right, trans, be who you are. But I'm not making you fly a straight flag at City Hall. I'm not making you drink my punch and the school systems. You know what I'm saying? Like, figuratively speaking. And that's kind of like, when I saw your post, I was like, thank God you got another guy that's got a pretty good foundation and a following that's going to stand up to it, and especially in the industry where it's like, what happened to freedom of speech instead of like being shut down, That's another thing. All these social media platforms, you know how many times that I got cited? Because guess who runs them all? The Democrats do, or people that vote democratically run all these things. And that's it. That's the bottom line right there.
I think the thing is, like, people think what I do is premeditated. It's really not. Two of the things that I find the most interesting are God and politics. These are the things that historically it's like it would be best to keep those things to yourself. I think they're two of the most important things that you should talk about. And when you live a life where you've been around enough, you've worked enough jobs, you've been in enough different types of communities from the very poor to the very wealthy, and you've interacted in people's homes as a paramedic with all these sorts of people and just live long enough life, you get a sense of what's right and what's wrong, plus how your upbringing was. And in 2020, when all the chaos was going on and all the different things, I remember intentionally being like, we are going to be apolitical, which is not who I am.
Yeah.
But to your audience, let's just keep it funny. Let's keep it quiet. even though I was working during COVID and everything I was seeing on the television or things I was hearing on the radio were completely opposite and completely false from what I was actually seeing in the field.
Quinn, no.
And when you know you're being lied to, like from multiple sources all day, every day, you get to a point where you're like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah,
and then
no
you
more.
see people going along with the narrative that's being pushed by their government, and you're like, something's very wrong here. So when things came around this time, I was like, I really don't care anymore. I know it's going to cost me money. It's going to cost me jobs. I don't care. I'm just going to tell the truth. And what happened. And like, it's funny you mentioned that. I'm not supposed to be sitting here right now. I'm supposed to be on the North Shore filming for a company, which I will not say, who's sponsored by a major soda. The major soda did a background check on me because I'd already signed the deal to be the host. And they said, we will not do the show if that guy's the host. That is only because of things I've spoke about. And they were, I'm assuming, doing this background with the timeline leading up to the election. But I sleep better at night knowing that I stood on my principles, and you get called every name in the book, this, that, the other thing.
I can only imagine, like, my little sub 5K following, like what do you go down that wormhole of your comments on stuff?
I have, and it's a huge mistake. Post and ghost is the way. The thing that really took me off was I'll sit, and I have friends of every belief you could imagine, politically or religiously, and I will sit and I will listen to what they have to say. But if I do that, I expect the other person in turn to listen to what I have to say. And when one group is trying to silence another group, that's insane. And America spoke, and we all know how it turned out.
Yeah.
And if you had half a brain, you knew that was the direction it was going to go. And I knew that a year prior. I'm like, this is all going to shift, which is where we're at right now. And I lost 10. When I started talking about this is how interesting this is. And it was almost like an experiment for myself. I'm like, I'm going to do this, try to do it in a humorous way. I know we're going to get tons of comments, but in 3 months, in 90 days, I lost 10,500 followers and I gained 10,000 followers for a net loss of 500. It was split right down the middle, just like they said America was. And it's like, okay, we got a bunch of people who have bought into this ideology that I do not agree with. And then we have a bunch of other people that are the silent majority. And my wife is very into politics. And because of being around her so much, I've thought about a lot more of the consequences of elections, because it's something in her side of the family that is always discussed, which it wasn't the case in mine. And I'm so happy I did what I did, because I get people now that come up to me, and a lot of it was quietly, please don't post this, please don't talk about this. And these are people that were very far left, and they'll go, yeah, I voted for this person, not that person. Yeah. And they were coming up to me leading up to that going, yeah, something's really whack. The Democratic Party is not the party that it was in the 80s or 90s or even early 2000s. And then people, they're like, screw you. We just want you to be this funny talking head. What are you doing? I'm like, I'll do whatever I want.
Yeah.
I built this. I'm going to do whatever I want. And because of that, it led to so many things. Here's my new sponsor,
who's
Tucker
that?
Carlson. That's my boss, Alp.
Yeah.
Anyways,
that's right.
Don't start nicotine.
What's up, Tucker? We love you.
It led to so many things.
Because so many people hate you, but most of us absolutely love you today.
Yeah. And I'll say this to anybody listening. If you're not interested in politics, trust me. When I was a kid, I would just hear adults talking about politics and real estate. And I'd be like, this is the dumbest thing. But as you get older and you live long enough and you see the consequences of terrible policy and morons voting into law things that are totally stupid, you go, hey, I'd like to do something if I could. So I regretted not speaking up in 2020. And I was like, I'm not doing that again. Yeah. Because back then, if I even mentioned something, whether it was about BLM, whether it was about COVID, I would instantly react to some left-leaning person coming on going, you can't say that, blah, 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 blah. And then when you know in your heart who you are and you know what's right and you know what's wrong, suddenly it's not as hard.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. Yeah. Most of my messages too, like I got.
By the way, it was Mountain Dew. Screw you, Mountain Dew.
Yeah.
I'm never having a Mountain Dew. I never even drank Mountain Dew to begin with. So I'd rather be here in this garage in Carlsbad than on the North Shore. Okay?
Yeah, plus
Far
Mountain
you.
Dew is just full of chemicals, but so did I used to be too, but doesn't mean I have to be anymore. Yeah, that's rad, John. You know, we really appreciate you coming out here today. You know, at the end of the day, you guys just remember, man, is the most beautiful aspect, I think, of what we should be projecting is, and I hate to use the word, but is diversity. Look at the surf community. There's people from all over the world, different colors of skin, enjoying one thing, and that's the ocean, riding on their board and being with their friends and having fun doing it. Another thing is we also need to learn that as a society and as a community and in a family, if you're going to actually hate or dislike somebody because of who they voted for, then you're just as bad as what you were pushing with diversity, equity, and inclusion.
It's insane.
You
It's a
know?
personal choice what you believe in. Everybody has their reasons. We all come from different backgrounds, different places. Alls I ever ask is that you listen to what I have to say. I listen to what you say. We all need to come together, okay? Under the same flag of like we're Americans. But freedom of speech is a real thing. And last time I checked, it still exists.
Yeah.
And so
For now.
You get to say what you want to say. I'll say what I want to say. Let the better idea win.
Yeah.
And for me, it's, again, I went through the same thing of like, it's two sides of the same coin, right? Democrat, Republicans. Well, let me explain this to you. There are real consequences for who you elect and what happens afterwards. You can travel to any city in the United States, and they're like little laboratories of democracy. You can see the ones that are flourishing, and then you see the ones that are absolutely in the dumpster because of stupid,
Policy.
horrible ideas.
Yep. I mean, you said it right there, from Los Angeles, which at one point was a beautiful city. I used to love going up there to skate through the 90s. I mean, it's a mecca, and it still is, but like, we all have social media. You see when you want to defund the police and the homeless issue, and God bless them, yeah, a lot of it's because of drugs, but Chicago, Los Angeles, Seattle, San Francisco, New York, what else am I forgetting about? But there's some major cities that just like, dude, big businesses have left.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what more do you need to see? This isn't a right or left thing. This is like open your eye thing, you know? And even my beautiful home city of San Diego, you know, you walk out of Petco Park and there's absolute melee down towards East Village. And as you get into Golden Hill, and all that stuff can be changed. Take it from a guy who's worked front lines. I always tell people, man, I came out of a gutter that I self-created, but I also jumped back into that gutter to pull others out. So I know that you can fix yourself from drug addiction and homelessness and all the stuff that I've also been through myself. But we're not going to get any of that without the right policies in order and the way we can help people. Because most of these people that are making a bunch of money, like look at LA, look how much they've given to the homeless crisis, and it's only gotten worse because people are profiting off of it. And that's where you got to start asking questions.
You do. And also, that's the political side of things, and there's the spiritual side of things. We need men and women.
Amen, brother.
That
toxic masculinity.
That have families, that are those real ones, moms and dads, that can clearly direct the paths of their children and say, this is wrong, this is evil, and this is right. It's not rocket science. It's quite simple. Kids need their dad. Kids need their mom. We need stronger families. We need them to build a society that's thriving. And when bad trash ideas come into the world, and it's just whichever way the political winds are blowing, oh, now we're doing this, now we're doing that. Right now you're seeing a shift of everyone going, maybe we went too far. Gee, you think? The conversations I have with friends, I'm like, how are we having this conversation? How is this even a real thing? It's because we've gone to an insane place. 100%. So you have to be careful what you put in your head. It helps in the beginning if you have a mom and dad that puts some sort of moral compass in you. It's a lot easier to see what's right and what's wrong. But I believe that there's real truth. I don't believe truth is subjective. I don't believe, which is what everything is, like this spiritual hippie, just be nice. Listen, if you've been in the real world for 5 seconds, you know that there's real evil.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes, you're
Yes. And you know that there's real good and there's real beautiful things. And I think so many people have this heart of good intentions, and it leads to just
Destruction.
destruction.
100%.
Straight up. And the only thing I could say is like, man, open that book, open that good book and start digging into it, man. Don't let somebody else feed you this stuff. I mean, that's a great place to start.
Do
if you
your
find
own
a
research.
pastor, but there's a lot of sheep or a lot of wolves in sheep clothing. There's a lot of people that are all about themselves, that are using the Bible to make money or things like that. Get alone with your Creator, look into the Word, and you could be used for a very powerful work. But you got to have that clear radar of like, this is absolutely insane. And so much of what our colleges are teaching kids, so much of what's on TV, so much, and say, I sound like an old man saying this, but it just leads to destruction. And it's the truth. Like, we want healthy human beings, and we're all screwed up. We're all screwed up. Whatever color of the rainbow.
Yeah.
We're broken. We are. And so you need to look to the source, which is your Creator. And I believe we're not just flesh and blood, these things that are just, we weren't here 1 minute, now we're here, then it's all going to go black. No, there's very real consequences, and there's very real evil in the world. And you just got to be able to tell the difference between the two.
Amen, brother. Well, John, we appreciate you just being so transparent, coming on the show. I want to leave you with this, because this is kind of where good old Holy Spirit was leading me. But let me look this verse up, because I don't want to butcher it, but also at the same token. So this is Philippians 1:6. Being confident of this, that he who began a good work in you will carry it onto completion until the day of Christ Jesus.
I love it.
And I know that rings true in my heart and my soul, because for the longest time, man, I was just a piece of shit. And besides differences, you guys, just to get off the political spectrum, if you let God, he will begin a good work in you and see it to completion. And you can see it in our stories. And we're always thinking and praying for you, regardless of, like, some of the most passionate and caring people are also the biggest goofballs. So outside of the, there's that side where you do care. And and look at, man, I'd gladly die for a friend of mine that's a Democrat as I would a Republican. And that's just the God honest truth. And most people I think that know me and love me, regardless of political or religious affiliations, will tell you that, that's just the kind of person I am. And I know that's the kind of person, and God's gave you that good work, man. And you're seeing it too.
Yeah. And I'll tell you this too, like, people, it's amazing that people don't understand satire, or they don't get when you're joking. The mistake I often make is thinking people view the world the way I view the world, that we have the same sense of humor. When I come across as condescending in a video, people really don't like that. People don't like to be talked down to. Some people like it if they're the kind of person that's like, oh, he's saying what I was thinking. But anything that I do or say, in the future, I want to be more thoughtful about it before I put it out there. I really have always just flown by the seat of my pants.
Just barf it out there.
Just barf it out there and see what happens. And sometimes really funny stuff comes. Other times it's not received the way I wanted it to be received. Other times I don't care. But I'm in a place now in my life where I always knew anything, I truly believe this, that you start working towards takes about 10 years, takes about a decade. And the first time I was on Kook of the Day, it was like 3 days before I turned 40. And I was so excited. And I've got to go places and do things that I never dreamed I would get to do just from being a goofball. But the second half of my 40s, like, I'm just praying to God, use me for something, whatever you want. I do not care. I do not care how people receive me. I care, or how people, receive me. I care what you think.
Yeah.
And that's all I want. To do something with whatever talents, whatever gifts you gave me, whatever bad decisions I made, like, let it be used for your glory. End of story. It's not about me. And I can get lost in that. That's the danger with all this stuff. It becomes about you. It's the John show. And you're like, ooh, and you're running around. And when you're in the middle of it, man, feels great. But then you go home at night and you're falling asleep and you're like, what am I even doing? Like
Yeah.
you could be doing so much more. And I appreciate you taking your brokenness, putting out to the public, being honest, being real. That is how people learn. That is how I learned. And this podcast right here, these things are what I wish I had when I was 20, when I was 21, that there were some men that were a little older, that were into cool things like you're into. And they spoke the truth and said, look, here's what's going on. Because guess what? I probably would have friends that were still alive, because sometimes that's all it takes. That's what it takes for me.
Yeah.
Somebody to pull me aside, reel me in and go, you're blowing it, dude. Like you are valuable. You have worth. You could do something great. And so many people don't hear that from their fathers. They come from broken homes.
Mm-hmm.
So when people like you, or hopefully people like me, tell people that, whether you're listening to this or you're watching it, it is true. We need men and women who are the best versions of themselves. And it's never easier than in this day and age to speak to massive audiences. And I truly hope, like my deep hope, and people think this is weird, I don't care. Like, because this is coming from the place of truth inside of me. Like, I don't think I'm a comedian. I don't think I'm any of the things people think I am. I think I'm meant for something different than people thought it was. It's between me and God. And I think maybe people listening, maybe you're not on the right path, and maybe you were meant for something much more than you could ever even imagine. And the only way you're going to figure that out is to get alone with God, to talk to God. And if you see somebody in your life that's struggling, we know it. We know it. I have friends that I knew were probably suicidal when I was in my 20s, and I didn't say anything to them because I was lost in the party too, and I figured out, and now they're dead.
Yeah.
So if you see somebody like that, you grab them, you look them right in the eye, and you tell them, I love you, and your creator loves you, and you are worth so much more. And all this
you
getting
matter.
high, all this shenanigans that you're up to, it is empty. It is empty. It is empty. That is not where it's at. And if you do that, you could save somebody's life, and know that you are valuable. And if you're at your 9 to 5 and you hate it, you can't stand it. I picked up a phone and it changed the direction of my life, and I cannot explain it. And you could do the exact same thing I did. Anybody can do it.
Amen, brother. So what I was going to get at is yeah, you're absolutely right. Make sure you guys check on those that you love. Don't be afraid to ask questions, even if they get upset, because I've buried so many people. I've sat across tables for moms who have buried 2 out of their 4 children from overdose, from depression, from allowing that depression to fester. I was just telling John, I did a post about the holiday season is not that festive for some. It's the biggest time of year for depression and suicide. And I did a post about that, and this kid had commented, I'm going to say without trying to get choked up, I just walked the tracks in Oceanside yesterday, but the coaster's going too slow to do the job. Praying for the upswing in life, because nobody deserves to go through this or feel this. You know what? What do you say other than, I didn't see this podcast going this way, but people are hurting out there. But you got to know that you're cared for, and especially all the shit we just talked about, like politics aside, like we care about people's lives, and especially being outspoken about my drug addiction and what it's done to my friends and my family. 2 suicides of mine, dude. It's when you get comments like that. But I reached out to the kid and I told him, I was like, look, dude, you matter. I love you. I don't even know you, but it doesn't have to be that way. You want to meet up, you want to talk. And I said, just know that you matter and that I love you. And he says, thank you, and you too. Not trying to be a downer, LOL. So when he said that, I was like, okay, well, we gotta listen to the cry for help, because sometimes the cry for help just needs to be answered, because when it isn't answered, that cry echoes. Unfortunately, that echo ends up at the barrel of a gun or the train track or whatever the case may be. Boy, we've sure gone a lot of ways, dude. I got tears coming down.
Just to follow that up real quick, when I was younger, you think everything's forever. If you're in the throes of darkness, you think it's never going to end. And especially in this day and age when everything's instant, you press a button, the food's there. You go on Instagram, you look at these things, everything's quick.
Yeah, the instant, totally.
You have no idea the direction your life can change and where it can go. You simply have no idea until you get there and you look back and you go, wow, how did that happen? I put aside this bad habit. I started going towards a direction of healing myself, and my world became something that I never even imagined. I have so many friends that had addiction issues, or a girl broke up with them, and that was the end of the world because this girl broke their heart. And it's such a shame and a tragedy because there was so much more for them. That was not the one for you.
Dude, it's
and
insane,
the broken
man.
hearts of men, it's just like, guys, stop. You had so much more life in you, and there's so much purpose for you. That word purpose always pops up. You got to let go, man. You got to find healing, but you have to get clean. You have to get your system clean. And for people that are high energy, such as myself or you, exercise is an incredible outlet. Eating clean is an incredible outlet. Those things serve your brain and your heart to get you in a place where you can be utilized by God to do what you were put here to do. And that takes work. And it takes separating yourself from some people who are your buddies, you know?
Totally. I got plenty of buddies, man, and that's not on them. It's on me to do what I got to do for me and my wife, and Lord willing, having, children one day, and, our family, we got, some family things going on, but that's just normal stuff. Nothing too crazy in the sense that we'll be able to be there for you. But, John, I love what you said. I have a phrase where you allow your mess to become your message.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And people thrive and people change because of that. People put down the barrel of the gun. They step off the train tracks. And you know what? For the comments I get like that, I get some awesome ones of saying, dude, thank you for these messages. Proverbially, don't stop. Don't stop. And you know what? I won't stop. And Jonathan Wayne Freeman, we hope you never stop too.
I won't.
And I just want to say, Mountain Dew. Edit that out.
One final thing. This is what I want to say to leave you with. You see all these glossy images of people's lives. You see all the rad things they're doing. And you might go, why do I not have these things happening in my life? So much of what you are seeing is fake. It is not real. You need to understand that. You need to search for truth at all costs. At all costs. And when you find it, you'll realize that most people are exactly what they appear to be. They're just people. Even the people you think are the most dialed in, that have it all together, they're humans dealing with everyday life, no matter how they present themselves to the world on social media. It is not the truth. So do not be deceived thinking that these people are just killing it. Some of the most miserable people I know have the most money in their bank account. And some of the people that I know that are the happiest, most joyful people literally have nothing.
Yes.
But their hearts are filled. They have family. They have a sense of purpose. So don't be deceived. And fame, fortune, all that, it's all fleeting. It truly is. And do something with your life that matters, truly matters, because giving people chuckles, giving people this, that, the other thing, what matters is how we impact other humans.
Amen. You know what, John, I want to do one thing I've never done. You're going to be the first on the podcast. Let's end with a prayer.
Okay.
You know, man. Lord, I just lift up my brother John here, and even my brother Zach here behind the camera, Lord, and we lift up our families. We lift up our children. Lord, we lift up our career, Father. We lift up our sphere of influence, Lord, and most importantly, Lord, this holiday season, everything we've talked about, we pray for unity and not division, Lord, understanding and not confusion, and that we can still all move forward positively regardless of religious differences, Father, or political differences, Lord, and still have a good life together with friends and family, Lord. And to just be with my brother John as he embarks on the rest of this journey with his platform, Lord, and letting your light shine. And as we say in triumph and in victory, amen.
Amen.
Yeah. That's Pros and Cons Podcast. God bless you guys. If you don't already, follow at Jonathan Wayne Freeman. Did I get that right?
You did. You nailed it.
John, it's a pleasure, dude. I hope to see you more often, get out in the water with you, and everybody have a great day.
Stoked.
Yee.